Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mengs, and today I am going to solve maybe one of the biggest mysteries in all of Fire Emblem. No, not the mystery of the Fire Emblem, another mystery. This question has probably been asked in my comment section more times than I can count. It's clear to me that you guys want to know this more than anything, so that's why I finally decided to investigate. Ladies and gentlemen, today I will answer the question of what actually happened to Dorcas. Let's begin. For my research, I will be using the official Fire Emblem commercial, which is what spawned the question to begin with, as well as some new material which recently surfaced in the Fire Emblem Heroes community. By connecting the dots, we can actually figure out not only what really happened to Dorcas, but why it happened. The famous video begins here, in a castle by the sea, where we are told that the drums of war are beating.
The drums of war are beating!
First of all, I think it's important to decipher the location of said castle. Since Dorcas is present in this video, we know that this has to be in Alib somewhere. If we bring up the world map, we obviously have to look for castles that are situated by the sea. While there are a couple of castles in Western Bern and southwestern Lycia, we can see that this castle is clearly located close to a river leading out to the ocean, and although the graphics of the commercial are a bit poor in quality, we can clearly see lush, green and fertile lands with lots of forests. Does this sound familiar? Well, remember Hector and Oswin's conversation from chapter 14, False Friends? I've been thinking, my lord. Laos is blessed with clear watering fertile ground. See the shades its tall trees and grasses casts? Ideal for hiding soldiers, don't you think? So yes, this is clearly Laos Castle. If you still aren't convinced, there's more evidence pointing to this, because inside the castle we see a bunch of men gathered around a table. After proclaiming that the drums of war are indeed beating, one of them also follows up with the phrase saying that no man can be trusted.
No man can be trusted.
At first glance, these guys might not seem all that familiar, but take a closer look. This middle man is clearly a younger version of Slater, a knight of Bern who under the events of Binding Blade was working directly under Narshan. Now you might be asking yourself, what is a knight of Bern doing in Laos? Well, isn't it obvious? Who is known for constantly betraying Lycia and dealing with Narshan? That's right, Erik. This meeting clearly takes place in between Blazing Sword and Binding Blade. After the death of his father Darin, Erik has called a meeting to discuss terms with Bern, plotting an alliance against Lycia. Remember the start of this video?
The drums of war are beating!
Yes, the drums of war are indeed beating. Sephiel is marshalling his forces in Bern, and he sent a young Slater to treat with Laos. That brings us to the natural question, what is Dorcas doing there? Well, while we know that Dorcas was born in Bern, after he helps Lyn take down Lundgren in Kalen, he and his wife Natalie moves to Lycia and settles down in Farah, which is situated very close to Laos. While you may think that Dorcas got all the gold he needed after the war, this actually isn't true. We learned in a support conversation with Farina in Blazing Sword that Dorcas was actually only paid a measly 2,000 gold for the entire war. Well, that gold ain't gonna last forever, he's gotta put food on the table for his wife and possible kids somehow. Meanwhile, Erik is known to hire mercenaries to bolster his ranks, and he doesn't particularly care where they are from, Rutger being the prime example, so it's not completely unfeasible that Dorcas was brought to the castle as a sellsword. It could also be that Dorcas's previous connection to Bern got him a special invitation to the meeting on behalf of Slater. Doesn't seem unlikely to me. All we know is that Dorcas is indeed present in the castle when this meeting takes place, but then it happens. Shocked as he sees Dorcas passing out on the table in front of him, one of the soldiers asked the question we all want the answer to.
What happened to Dorcas?
Well, isn't it obvious? Slater did his homework. After talking to Erik, he knew that Dorcas would leak their plans to Eliwood about a potential rebellion, since he fought on their side during the last one. And knowing that he can't beat the legendary Dorcas in a fair fight, he serves him poisoned mutton. That way, Dorcas will not be able to join the war. Sounds impossible? Well, answer me this. Where is Dorcas to be found in the events of Binding Blade, despite living in Farah, literally a stone's throw away from Eliwood when the war breaks out? That's right, Dorcas is nowhere to be found. But that, ladies and gentlemen, does not answer the question. What actually happened to Dorcas? Did he die from the poisoned mutton? The evidence seems to point to exactly this. For many heart-grueling years, the fandom cried out in outrage. How could their wonderful Dorcas meet such a tragic end? How could such a brilliant and excellent warrior meet his demise at the hand of poisoned mutton? Well, ladies and gentlemen, when Dorcas was finally announced as a playable unit in Fire Emblem Heroes, the shocking truth would be known to us all. In a base conversation, he utters the following phrase.
How's my health? Well, I had some bad mutton earlier, but I feel fine otherwise.
Not to mention, he says this.
Trust nobody.
Build an army.
Trust nobody.
Fire Emblem.
Trust nobody.
Trust nobody.
The drums of war are beating.
Fire Emblem.
Trust nobody.
No man can be trusted.
Fire Emblem.
Trust nobody.
The drums of war are beating. Happened to Dorcas.
Trust nobody.
Trust nobody. Fire Emblem.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we finally know what happened to Dorcas. He was poisoned, but he survived. However, because he didn't know better, he simply thought that the mutton was bad and made him pass out. Now, you might be thinking, but Slater poisoned his mutton, he said so himself.
I put poison in his mutton.
How could Dorcas survive eating poisoned mutton and only getting away with passing out?
I feel fine otherwise.
Well, the answer is simple, ladies and gentlemen. Poison in Alib sucks ass. I mean, have you ever had one of your units poisoned in Fire Emblem before? Is there anything in existence that kills you slower than Fire Emblem poison? Seriously, look at this shit. You'll die of old age before this unit dies of poisoning. In fact, if I was offered poisoned mutton in a Fire Emblem game, I'd rather eat it, because I would die of starvation faster than I would die of poison in that game. But that's just an in-game mechanic, Mangs. That doesn't represent the actual story. Oh, doesn't it now? Sure about that? Remember Lynn's grandfather? They stuffed the guy full of poison for months. An old man drinking poison multiple times a day, and when his freaking granddaughter finally shows up to stop it, he just survives! Either poison makers in Alib are completely incompetent and have no idea how to administer lethal doses of poison, or everyone in Alib just have a natural built-in resistance to the damn stuff, which leads me to wonder why it's ever being used in the first place. I mean, have you even freaking looked at the stats of poison weapons? They are literally the worst weapons in existence. Why would you ever use this shit on the battlefield? So yeah, after all these years, I think we can finally say what actually happened to Dorcas. He was invited by Eric of Laos as a sellsword to a secret meeting with Byrne, but was poisoned by Slater, who did his homework, only for Dorcas to kinda survive because poison in Fire Emblem is terrible at killing people, but he probably got a bit of a stomachache as a result, which led him to go home to Natalie. However, because he now knows that he can't trust anyone,
Trust nobody.
he doesn't join Elwood's son Roy in the war because he's lost all trust in humanity. After all, they gave him poisoned mutton. I mean, who does that? That's seriously not nice. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's what happened to Dorcas.